There were still several class titles to be decided as the Asset Alliance Group Scottish Rally Championship headed north to the AM Phillip Trucktech Snowman Rally. So let's catch up with the crews we haven't seen yet. Leading the class for most of the day, Eddie Noble and Erin Wood were producing their best drive yet in the Fiesta despite battling a dodgy intercom. 39th overall after 5 stages, they were sadly forced to retire with a broken axle on the final stage.
There we go.
John Brownie and Gordon Ritchie were running strongly on the first 2 stages in their cadet, but it all began to go wrong in stage 3 with a snapped clutch cable. Nursing the car for the rest of the day, recording 3 stage maximums, they were rewarded for persevering with 56th overall.
Hello. I thought.
Equal second fastest in stage 1, Alistair Brearley and Richard Wardle stayed in the mix for the rest of the day. Enjoying the twisty stages more than the flat-out Milbuoy, they grabbed 46th overall and maximum class points for Richard. And that was enough to give Alistair and Richard the Class C3 title.
Come on, Brearley.
Very easy style he's got.
After taking the class win at the Grampian, Robert Tong was keen for a repeat performance on the Snowman, an event he's never finished. With Graham Harris back in the hot seat, the MG man was second in class for most of the day, eventually grabbing 42nd overall and top C3 drivers' points when Noble and Wood retired. Neil Phillip was joined by Ian Thorburn for this event, the long-serving Impreza continuing its impressive record of finishes, grabbing 49th overall. And this was enough to keep Neil in the C5 class points lead, with 1 round remaining.
Jason, we don't have lakes in Scotland.
Oh, we do, we have one.
Oh, aye,
Back for the first time since the Speyside, Kevin Jeffrey was keen to have a crack at his adopted home event. With Ian McLeod alongside, they were finding the big hills to be hard work for the normally aspirated Impreza. Third in class and 44th overall was an improvement on their Speyside result. Taking maximum co-drivers points, Graham Kelman was once again guiding Mike Grant around in their Impreza. SS2 was the scene of their biggest moment, parking the car in a big ditch and dropping around 20 seconds to the class leaders. Despite the delay, they were happy with another good finish, backing up their Grampian result with 32nd overall in the Snowman. Delighted to be back after his massive Argyll accident, Jordan Anderson was joined by the experienced Chris Wareham for this round. They started steadily, not helped by Chris feeling carsick for the majority of the day. They built the pace all afternoon and eventually grabbed an excellent 18th overall and maximum drivers' points for Jordan. After their disappointing retirement on the Grampian, David McLeod and Eamon Boyle had burned the midnight oil to rebuild the Avenger's rear suspension assembly. The car was running well, although the combination of a 1600 engine and a 4-speed gearbox meant the car was running out of puff on the big hills and the fast sections of Milbuoy. 38th overall was a good return to form after the Grampian. And just 1 second up on the Avenger, Ernie and Patricia Lee came into the Snowman fresh from an excellent run at the track rod. Stage 1 saw a visit to a ditch at the hairpin, Ernie receiving some harsh words from Patricia. Despite not feeling they got a handle on the stages, they managed a solid 37th overall.
No bottoming out for Ernie.
There you go.
M1 featured one of the closest battles of the day between 2 MG ZRs. Niall Cowan Jr. and Charlie Sayre Payne were finding their car to be better on the twisty stages, while Alan Scott and Shayna Archibald had the advantage on the fast stuff. After 5 stages, both crews had 2 fastest stage times each, with Cowan Jr. and Sayre Payne just 21 seconds up going into the final test. Unfortunately, Alan and Shayna lost 3 minutes on the last stage with overheating issues, leaving Cowan Jr. to take maximum drivers' points and Shayna the maximum in the co-drivers.
Keep it going, keep it lit, Nice one.
Taking the top co-drivers' points, Nicky Addison had jumped into the hot seat of Callum Atkinson's Fiesta. Having taken a break from driving in recent years, Callum had lost none of his speed. Nicky expertly guiding her pilot to an excellent 28th, despite flirting with the ditches on occasion. They were also first on the scene of Duncan Campbell and Michael Cruikshank's mid-stage fire, Callum and Nicky's help proving vital in helping to save the car. Out for just the second time this year, Thomas Bell was continuing to learn his ex-Megan O'Kane Ford Fiesta, aided on this occasion by Liam Richardson in the hot seat. Getting quicker and quicker as the day wore on, Thomas was visibly growing in confidence with the new car, taking maximum driver's points, along with 43rd overall.
Ooh, go on yourself, boy.
Dougal Brown and Lewis Rochford were sadly forced out in SS1 with engine problems. Kenny Wood and Charles Mackenzie were absolutely flying in their BMW, leading the class after 5 stages. But sadly, mechanical failure on the final test would force them out.
Now that's impressive, isn't it?
Lovely.
Sandy and Ian Arbuthnot started steadily in stage 1 before being delayed in 2 with a broken steering column. Thankfully, teammate Mike Grant had packed his welder and they were able to sort the car in service. Pushing on for the rest of the day, they took a 4th in class and 48th overall. Mike Phillip and Laura Dawson's ever-increasing pace continued on the Snowman. Fresh from a good run at the Grampian, they were battling for a class podium all day, despite struggling with wheel spin on the slippy uphill sections. 3rd in class and 30th overall was another solid result. After Charlotte McDowell took unwell, Fraser Smith had installed a more than adequate substitute in Josh Davison in the hot seat of his Escort. After various teething troubles all year, Fraser was delighted that the car was running well and was left wide-eyed after holding it on the rev limiter in 6th gear for several seconds in Milbury. 22nd overall, and the class win by just 5 seconds was a good comeback after retiring on Mull. Fraser still has a chance of the class title.
There we go, Fraser. Keep the shoe on.
Lovely stuff.
Walter Henderson and Jim Kinloch started well inside the top 30 after stage 1, but stage 2 was a disaster, discovering the starter motor was broken after a spin and stall. That dropped them to 58th overall, fighting back with more top 30 times over the rest of the day to salvage 41st overall.
Just go for another gear.
Keep her going, Watty. Keep her going, boy.
Matt Calderwood and Robert Wood retired early with mechanical problems. Mike Moats and Gary McDonald were debuting their newly purchased Impreza for this round. SS1 and 2 weren't great, no turbo boost and a slipping clutch making life difficult. But once those issues were sorted, they were loving the new car, grabbing a strong 33rd overall, despite the issues in the morning. 21st overall, Martin Erskine and Charles Blair arrived at the Snowman with a bunch of upgrades after lessons learned at the Scottish. Continuing to learn the new car, they built up their pace all day, rounding the event off with a solid 20th fastest on the final stage.
And that's the way it should be driven. Well done, Martin.
19th overall, Simon Hay and Callum Jaffrey were continuing to refine their form from a few years ago. Building the pace all day, they rounded it off with 15th fastest over the final stage after their best run of the season so far. '17th overall, Brett McKenzie and Barry Young were continuing to show the solid gravel pace they'd showed at the Speyside. There was a small issue when a heavy landing in Milbury left Brett with a sore back, but thankfully it didn't stop them from grabbing 3rd in class. '15th overall, Ross McDonald and Matthew Johnson started steadily by their standards. On the top class pace for most of the day, they were forced to back off slightly on the final loop with a broken rear CV seal. It didn't seem to affect them, 16th fastest over the final stage. Mark Irvin was making his SRC driving debut with his newly purchased Fiesta, navigated on this occasion by Richard Simmons. SS1 they caught 2 cars, and 2 was going well until they picked up a puncture. Unfortunately, they began to experience power issues after that, eventually nursing the car home in 55th overall after a tough afternoon. Thomas Gray and Ricky Finlayson were heavily delayed with turbo problems in stage 1, but that did mean they were on hand to orchestrate rescuing Paddy Munro and Andrew Stevenson from a ditch. Back out for the second loop, they were 9th fastest in stage 3, but called it a day when the car began to cut out in stage 4 and 5.